Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Transport Innovation Summit as we begin day 4. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. I'm Luke Antonio, the editor of Intelligent Transport, and I will be guiding you through some of the various case studies and panel sessions that we have lined up for you today. Yesterday saw another round of fantastic presentations and discussions covering a whole range of topics from IoT and ticketing to mobility as a service and even Hyperloop. If you missed anything, I would urge you to by all means catch up with these sessions on demand, which you can do for up to 12 months. Today, we're focused purely on urban transport with our primary webinar sessions looking at smart travel planning and information delivery and tech-enabled on-demand mobility. In the time of coronavirus, both of these themes have key roles in the recovery of public transport. And we're really lucky to have secured a number of fantastic speakers today to discuss these themes at length. So do make sure that you don't miss out today. We do have a packed day ahead of us, but before we begin, just a really quick reminder that we want these sessions to be as interactive as possible. They have been all week so far, and we want to keep that up. So please do send in your questions for our panelists, presenters, speakers throughout the sessions today, and make sure that you're taking part in the polls for each session where they are available. Now, to start things off, we have what promises to be a fantastic new case study from MOOVIT, as Alon Schanzer takes us through the results of some fascinating new market research on the impact of COVID-19 on urban mobility and looks at how mass can be deployed to improve future transport networks. Alon, thank you so much. I will hand over to you to begin your presentation.
Thank you very much, Luke, and good morning, good afternoon to everybody. Let me just share my screen. So I hope everybody can see my screen now. And again, good morning. My name is Alon Schanzer. I'm the VP Sales for MOOVIT. And I would like to share with you some insight of data that we collected and analyzed that's showing you the impact of COVID-19 on urban mobility during the last couple of months. And for anything you would like to get out of the report, you will have at the end a link that we're able to share with you more, and feel free to use it. A little bit about MOOVIT. MOOVIT started 9 years ago, and recently we were acquired by Intel for the mobility services that we provide. MOOVIT is the #1 urban mobility application, providing mass solution for many cities and public operators in the world. MOOVIT started 9 years ago with the application free of charge to help people to get from point A to point B, gathering a lot of information from public transportation and extend it much further in the last couple of years to all the micro-mobility. We have a full multimodal trip planner providing services to many cities around the world, and we'll see some numbers later on. Our main idea was to help people to get from point A to point B and helping them to get better service and more information in their cities. A little bit of the numbers. So we are about to reach soon to 1 billion users in the world. We're adding 1 million users every day. Sorry about that. So we're adding 1 million new users every day. Because of that, we succeed to collect more than 6 billion anonymous data points to our repository. We are GDPR compliant, so we are not collecting any private data. It's aggregated data that allow us to provide more information to our users, but also to operators and municipalities to understand how people consume public transportation in their cities. We're launching every day additional service in a city around the world. We currently have around 3,400 cities where we operate the MOOVIT application, more than 100 countries. We're expanding the languages, and we have now already 45 languages. So pretty much wherever you're going to go around the world, you'll be able to use the MOOVIT in your own language. We integrated to 7,500 transit agencies. More than half of them, we have the real time, which is crucial, and you will see how crucial it is to our consumer through the feedback that we get. We have more than 6 million stops, train, bus stops. Just compared to other provider, we have double the amount of bus stops and train stops. It's a huge amount of data that we have in our repository, together with the integration that we did in the last couple of years for micromobility. We have more than 300 micromobility that we integrated with. So the data that we have from the public transportation and mobility services together with our user data, the combination, the aggregated data, allow us to provide a lot of insight, allow us also to communicate and get a lot of feedback from our users. And this is exactly what we're going to show you in the next few slides. So the next slide is going to talk about our data, information, and the analysis that we did, how the COVID crisis impact the public transportation systems. In most of the cases, we saw between 40 to 90% drop in ridership. And as you see on the right side, and we'll go into more details, it's starting to improve. Some of the countries and cities, we already see that it came back where the ridership were before the COVID, beginning of the year. Some of them are still below. It depends again on the circumstances on the COVID in each country. And it depends how the cities react to the COVID and what changes they adopt fast. So as you can see in Madrid, there was a huge drop, and now it's almost back to normal. In Munich, we still have a drop in the usage of public transportation. In New York, you see the lines. It's going to the details in each country and city. And as I mentioned, if you would like to get more information exactly in your area, what was the impact and how people use and behave during the COVID and what's happening during the last few weeks, we'll be able to share it with you. We are following this. We're helping some of the city to understand also the crowdness in certain areas, and we provide a lot of information in order to react much better to the situation. Embedded into the social distance that we have, and again, if until the COVID, the public transportation main idea was to have more and more people in the bus, in the train, we are now changing the behavior of the users, but also put different regulation depending on the city and the country about social distance and how many people can actually go into a certain bus or certain train. We see that because of the COVID, a lot of routes, timelines were changed, and municipalities and transport operators need to react very fast and update their timeline and notify the user very fast. It's something that some of them didn't have the capability to do, and we're trying to help them. And we see that a lot of operators react very fast to that and implementing new solutions. Mobile payment, we see a lot of adaptation into mobile payment, again, because of the social distance, to make it more easy to the user to travel and less interactions, either with the bus driver or with the certain tills. So those kind of trends we see around the world, helping to mitigate the COVID-19 situation. And we'll go into more details regarding the surveys that we did around those topics, how people react and what do they think will help them to go back to public transportation. So the first slide I wanted to share is the evolution of urban mobility during COVID-19. As an example, in London, so before the lockdown, we saw 66%, huge number of people who were using public transportation. We saw that after the lockdown, it was changed. Many of the people that used to ride short rides started to walk more, and you see the walking, the percentage of walking was increased from 15 to 31%. It's a huge amount of people that left the public transportation and started to walk. However, we see after 6 months, it's starting to change again. And again, it's increasing every week. Of course, it's depend in each city, it's different. And again, in the UK now, where they are about to lock down again, we see again a bit of a drop, and we're following it up every week. When we go to Italy, one of the first countries that was hitting very badly with COVID-19, and we saw a huge drop with public transportation. We ask, while in lockdown, how do you think you will get around Italy in the coming months? So people during the COVID, during the quarantine, we asked them what will happen after the public transportation will be open again, and after the quarantine will be released. Still, people want to use public transportation. Almost 50% of the people said they would like to go back to public transportation. It means that even in this situation where it's quite difficult to use public transportation, and some of the public transportation were shut down, people want to get back to public transportation, which is very encouraging. And then we ask, and this is an example from Paris, what will encourage you to use public transportation in Paris after the lockdown? So what will encourage you again to go back to use public transportation? Most of the people, more than 40%, said real-time arrival information. And I think it was mostly because of the COVID. Timelines were changed a lot. The routes were changed, and we're working also with the IDFM and gave them the capability to adjust the data, adjust the timeline, and also to notify their customers what are the changes, and also in real time to understand where are the buses, when do they need to go to the train station or the bus station. People are afraid to go early and stand in a crowded area of bus station, so they want to get to the place in the last minute in order to catch the train, to catch the bus, and not to stand near other people because of the COVID. The second, and this, by the way, this is something we see not only in Paris, in most of the cities. In Europe, again, in each area in the world, it's a little bit different depending on the public transportation infrastructure. Another very interesting information is about the frequency. People would like to have more frequency for the public transportation, and also pre-book. We see more and more requests for pre-book. The pre-book also allow the municipality and public operator to manage the crowdness in public transportation, and we see more and more adaptation for different kind of on-demand shuttles, on-demand public transportation, or just pre-book sittings everywhere in the world. The US was affected a little bit different than Europe and different timeline. And we gave few example in cities in the US. And the question was, what will encourage you to use public transportation more often in the US after the lockdown? As you can see, in most of the cases, in Chicago, for instance, 50%, the same in New York, Philadelphia was 45%. People ask for more vehicles, more frequency, more vehicle. Some of it because the vehicle were very crowded, so people didn't go on the bus because it was too crowded, and some of them because they had to wait for a long time. The second, again, as we discussed also in Paris, is the real-time information. People want to get more and more information to understand where is the bus, to understand when it's going to come, and also predict how to plan their journey. During the quarantine, we asked what would encourage you to use public transportation in Spain. So similar results with a little bit of tweaks. So here we get more than 80% ask for cleaning, but frequency also, although Spain in most of the cases has very good infrastructure for public transportation, people still ask for more frequency to have less people in the buses. Masks, so people ask that it will be mandatory. Again, we saw it also in other places in the world. It's not always a regulation, and people would like to feel more comfortable to go on a bus, on a train, when they have people next to them having masks. And real-time, 48% ask for real-time arrival, again, for prediction. In Germany, we asked the same questions, and we got similar results, more frequent, more real-time, different numbers, but we see again similar methods and similar answers. Again, as I mentioned, if you have more specific city or country you would like to get information for, feel free to contact us according to the last slide I'm going to show how to do it. In Melbourne, so we asked the same question. We got also contactless, 30% contactless payment. We see a lot of projects now in Australia for contactless payment. We saw it also in Europe. In Israel, we just launched 2 months ago or 3 months ago, contactless project for the whole country that people will be able to pay through their mobile payment. So it's a seamless interaction. You don't need to pay anything to the driver. You don't need to interact with any push buttons or any contactless or any hardware. So it's a full contactless solution. Again, seamless, together with also pre-reservation. And again, frequency, 53% ask for more frequency and 40% ask for real-time information, more accurate real-time information. Brazil, a lot of the public transportation was shut down in Brazil. Again, that was the COVID-19 hit got a little bit later than Europe. And again, because of that, they ask for, again, higher frequency, also real time. It's getting again and again. I think in this part of the world, there's much less information about real time, and we have a lot of projects around that. So as a summary, I would like to summarize the information we got. We saw that municipalities and operators had to adapt quickly to the new norm. The new norm asks for more update schedule, more frequent update. If before you had to adjust the timeline every couple of months or years, here you had to adapt much faster. Sometimes in some areas we saw that the changes were on a weekly basis, and sometimes the changes was also on the routes in order to provide services to hospitals, to critical infrastructure. So the whole route will change. And again, the ability to do that wasn't everywhere. To keep the rider informed, once you do the change and once you have the capability to do the change very fast, you have to inform your users, to inform what was the change, about the real time, about the timeline, the routes. Some of the public operators changed it, but didn't notify the users. So interactions with the users is very, very important, and you have to do it on a regular basis, sometime on a daily basis. Capacity on vehicle, very important, especially with the new regulation in some of the countries. Some of the countries have a regulation that only one person will sit on a bench, and you have to have a free space between passengers. Some of them had a specific amount of reduced number of people that can go on a bus, for instance. So to manage the capacity on the bus is a new norm, and it's still going on, and a lot of projects around it. Some of the operators adapt quicker, and it helped them to provide the service back after the quarantine much faster. Some are less. And one of the most important thing is data. We were operating and cooperating with a lot of municipalities regarding data. We had a lot of information to understand where people still using the buses, where are the crowdness areas, where do they need to send more buses, more frequent buses, or how to change the lines. Data is critical in those places and those timelines, and that's also the new norm. Municipalities using now more and more data to influence the operation with public transportation. So how do we rebuild rider trust? Give the ability to keep the rider up to date. So we're working with a lot of municipalities to provide the real time on our application. In some of the places, we provide the real time with our solution, and then we open it to other platforms to integrate, to give the ability to provide real time to all the users, the ability to change the data, the transit data. So we give an editor, a transit data manager tool to provide the updated data, and we give the ability for the operator or the municipality to update the data on a regular basis together with the notification on our platform. Understand the rider behavior, as I mentioned. So we have a very detailed analysis that we provide to municipalities. And again, we're not providing here in this session, but we can talk about it and provide more information on a separate note. And prioritize rider, manage capacity. We see a lot of on-demand and pre-booked shuttles project happening everywhere in the world. We just won few projects in Europe, Australia, and the US. So there is a huge demand for transit on-demand project in order to manage the capacity in public transportation. So that was the summary of our reports, and whoever wants more details and the full report can log into the website, and we will immediately send the report. We're happy to share. It's open data that we're sharing as part of our cooperation. Feel free to contact us, and we'll be happy to be in touch with you. Thank you very much. And look, if there is any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alon. Thank you so much. Fantastic presentation, and incredible to see some of that data and get a truly global insight into the impact of COVID on urban mobility. Obviously, as you've just referred to, everybody should go check out the link. We're posting it in the chat on the event platform as well, so you can go take a look. But for now, we do have some audience questions in. So the first one I want to come to has just come in. The traffic on roads in the UK is anecdotally almost back to pre-lockdown volumes, although less than 50% of workers are working in the office. Is this situation easily explained by the reduction of people using public transport?
So that's true. Less people using public transportation because of they're afraid of the COVID situation, and they're using their own vehicles. We see changes in that, but still you have less worker and more traffic in some of the cases. It really depends on the cities. Some cities you cannot use your own car just because public transportation is much more convenient. Some of the cities still allow to use the cars, so it's really depend, but definitely a huge change.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, during lockdown, obviously, the volume of traffic, car traffic on the roads dropped enormously and had its own impact on the reduction in carbon emissions, for example. And that was seen as a positive sign, but there's always, I think, a fear now as we try to get back to some kind of normality, but without public transport to some degree, that carbon emissions could begin to soar again. And I think that's something we can't really afford to have happen. Right. So the next question we've got, I was wondering, based on the trends that you've seen in your data for somewhere like London, how important is it for cities to use that data and make sure that they're adapting their services and their infrastructure as well to better support people's needs and requirements? For example, in cycling and walking, which we've seen increases in around the world.
So it's crucial, especially in this kind of period. It's crucial to have the data and to have the data almost in real time. So immediately when things are changing, in order to understand some of the reports that we did is regarding crowdness, to analyze where are the hotspots in a city in order to understand the situation and mitigate that. Sometimes it's specific train station, sometimes it's specific hospital areas. So it's crucial. So that's the first thing. The second thing is how do you mitigate that? And this is also something we're helping with.
Yeah, sure. We have an audience question here. Has the research that's being carried out here taken into account the increase in deprivation within social groupings in urban and rural areas?
So again, can you rephrase
Yeah,
it?
of course, yeah. So the research that's been done, does it take into account the, I suppose, the social and economic changes that have happened as a result of the pandemic, with people losing their jobs, unemployment increasing? You know, does it take into account those sort of factors within specific urban and rural areas and the impact that public transport services have seen as a result?
Yeah, so that's the next level of analysis. The analysis that we provided here is just the data to understand the impact. What we do usually with the data, aggregate it with some other economic data in order to provide more information to municipalities and operators in order to adjust the operation. Again, it's about the economic, it's about places in the cities, it's about the situation of a specific city, lockdown. So each city has different quarantine manners and rules. So definitely it's part of the overall analysis that we're doing on the data that I just presented.
Yeah, sure. So to clarify, there is a at least one more step to this
Exactly.
market research, and you're going to continue to update these trends and this data in the coming months as the situation evolves.
So we're following the data on a weekly basis, sometime on a daily basis, depending on the situation. And of course, we're updating it and sharing it whenever needed.
Yeah, sure. And obviously people will be able to access that if they're interested in, their individual country or city.
Yes, so here I gave just a snapshot of some of the cities and countries. Like I said before, we can share the full reports and even more specific details on a specific city once somebody will just send us the request.
Yeah, perfect. And obviously for the audience, you can connect with Alan on the event platform on Swapcard if you want to ask any follow-up questions or get more information about specific data. And Alan, I was wondering as well about MOOVIT's kind of data gathering community. I know it's pretty vast in terms of the kind of users you have who are part of the community that update data. Did you see any impact in that during the pandemic where people were locked down and maybe not able to contribute as often? And if so, were you able to counter that in any way with relationships with metropolitan areas?
So it was the other way around. We have 700,000 people in our community. We call them MOOVITers, that helping us to shape the data and update it. And we see more and more people helping in order to help their own community to get a better service, MOOVIT service their own community, and helping them to get the real time, the right schedule. So we see people that, like you said, in quarantine, sitting at home, helping us to get this information. Some of them have very good relationships, some of them working in the operator or municipalities, and we get even better communication now.
Yeah, sure. I think we just lost your camera. I don't know if you're able to get that back on. There we go. I see you again. Great. No, yeah, I think obviously having that community is so valuable, and I guess what sets MOOVIT apart from its competition as well. If if the opposite of the question I asked is true, do you see that trend kind of continuing over the next few months as well, kind of getting more data gatherers and MOOVITers, as you call them, on board?
So I see it growing, and as I mentioned, part of the report was about real time, about information that the users see. We're launching every day additional city for the service, and now we're trying to double it just in order to give better information and help local communities to get service. And we're doing that now 90% of the time because of our MOOVITers.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that data is obviously, it's crucial, and understanding the data that people want next, obviously, in terms of real-time disruption, real-time crowdedness levels at the moment, that is absolutely pivotal as to whether or not people choose to use public transport or not, or maybe go back to using their own car. And it's a struggle that the public transport industry has faced for a while, getting people to give up their own individual mobility service in their personally owned car to use something shared. How do you think that challenge is going to evolve now, and how important is disruption data and crowdedness data to encouraging people back to using public transport, or even just getting them to transition in the first place?
I think people want to get more confidence, and this is what we saw from the results. People want to have more confidence that they won't have to go on a bus when it's too crowded. People want to understand that they don't need to stand in the bus station too long. It was always before also, but now the excuse is much stronger. So people are really afraid to stand in a crowded area. And if municipalities and public operators will be able to give more confidence to their own users with the real-time information, with all the disruption information, people will feel more confident to know that they have, for instance, a reserved seats, nobody else sits next to them. They know exactly when they need to go to the bus or train. They know exactly how they will be able to go from the bus to wherever they want to go. So confidence is very important to build that with the users.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think one final question from me: how important do you think the potential deployment of mobility as a service and some more on-demand type services is to the recovery of the public transport sector as a whole? You know, flexibility now is going to be key in delivering the services that people want. And I think the data probably backs that up.
So the way MOOVIT look at it is really as a whole package. You cannot split the services and isolated them. Back to the confidence, people want to understand how they get from point A to point B, even if they're using a multimodal solutions. And this is where MOOVIT is coming from. The idea, again, the mass solution that everybody talk about has to include everything. You cannot have on-demand solution, you cannot have bus solution. It has to be a combined solution, last mile, first mile that everybody talk about, but it has to be not in an isolated environment. It has to be a full journey. People want to understand that if they take the on-demand to the train station, they really don't miss the train in order to get to their office, and they have the timeline, they have the confidence that somebody come to pick them up, and they're not missing the train and all the rest of the journey.
Yeah,
so the
for sure.
solution is really pack everything together with the ticketing, of course, again, that we talked about, seamless ticketing.
Yeah, of course. And, integrating ticketing into any mass kind of system is absolutely crucial. And in a lot of cases, it's the next step for a lot of those implementations to make sure that everything can be done in one place at the same time without having to switch between apps or whatever it might be. And obviously it's of increasing importance now to people to be able to do that from the comfort of their own device without having to use like a ticket vending machine or anything like that. So it's absolutely crucial that progress is made in this area. That is just about all we have time for, unfortunately. Obviously, for our audience, you can find the link in the chat to more information on this. By all means, do connect with Alon on the event platform to find out more. But for now, Alon, thank you very much indeed for joining us for this presentation. Like I said before, the insight is so valuable, and seeing some of that data, even from a kind of top level perspective, is hugely insightful to be able to work out the impact in terms of modal split and just see exactly how services have been impacted in the last 6 months. For the audience, a reminder just to stay tuned. We obviously have another session coming up in just a few minutes time on smart journey planning and information delivery, which to some degree ties in nicely with what Alon's already spoken about here. So do stick with us. But for now, Alon, thank you very much indeed. And I'm sure you'll be inundated with questions over the next few days.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot. Take care.